All right, all right, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the That's an Awful Take podcast. Episode 5. We made it 5 episodes. Love to see it. We got a ton of good stuff today. So, I'm your host, Price Manser, the hostess with the mostest to make the most out of your day. Hope everybody is having a great Thursday so far, a great week. We got a lot to talk about. It's been a big week in the college football world, NFL, all that good stuff. So I'm really excited to get into it. Let's just get started with a little recap of last week's episode. So last week, I correctly predicted all the conference championship winners and went 100% on my CFP picks. So who I thought was going to be in the CFP, who I thought was going to win each respective conference championship game. So without further ado, I think we're going to get into that. Switch it over. Here we are. So first conference championship game we're going to go over, Boise State, UNLV. Arguably the most unimportant, but got Boise State the bye. Obviously, we predicted this one correctly. Ashton Jeanty put up 209 rushing yards and a touchdown. And, is making a really good case for the Heisman, in my opinion. There's a lot of people who think it should be Hunter. And honestly, Hunter just won AP Player of the Year. And the last 8 AP Players of the Year have won the Heisman. So hopefully Jeanty can break that streak. But, I think Jeanty deserves a Heisman. Obviously, I've talked about it before on the show. But next up, we'll talk about Boise State's defense. So the defense for Boise State really showed out in this game. UNLV is honestly a great offense. Haj Malik Williams and the big players for, as you can see in the box score, the big players for UNLV didn't really make an impact. So Jaden Thomas in the receiving game and all that. So shout out Boise State's defense. Honestly, a very unsung hero of this Boise State team. So yeah, that's kind of Boise State, UNLV. Big game there. Next, we're going to go over Army and Tulane. So Army, first time in the American Conference Championship, gets the dub. Only passed the ball twice, but it's Army. It's a suffocating running offense. They absolutely dominated time of possession, and it really comes from drives like these. 11 plays, 6 minutes. And then, 16 plays, 84 yards, 10 minutes. 10 minutes of possession is crazy. And, as you can see, they have drives where they only take a minute, which is crazy because they only run the football. So, yeah, as you can see, absolutely dominated time of possession there. Won in the turnover game, played great defense. Shout out Bryson Daly. Had 4 touchdowns on the ground for Army. You love to see it. Excuse me. But, yeah. Obviously, Army gets the win in dominant fashion over Tulane. Really kind of an unimportant game, but pretty entertaining one nonetheless. Next up, another kind of unimportant game, Jacksonville State versus Western Kentucky. Jacksonville State dominated on defense. Dominant rushing game from Jacksonville State. We've kind of seen it all season. I don't know if you guys have watched Jacksonville State football, but, they've been a run-heavy team. They found their quarterback in Tyler Huff. And Trey Stewart on the ground as well. They make a great duo in the backfield. We could check it here on the box score. As you can see, Tyler Huff, Trey Stewart both put up 150-plus yards, 4 touchdowns between them. Tyler Huff had another 2 in the air. But, yeah, just a great rushing attack for Jacksonville State. Once again, kind of dominating that time of possession there, as we've been seeing a lot in games. At 562 yards, no turnovers, won the turnover battle, ultimately won the game in blowout fashion. So that is the first set of unimportant games. We're going to get into more later. Not to say they're unimportant. They're all conference championships. But, it doesn't have, big CFP implications like some of these other games do. So, next up is Oregon and Penn State. So, this was actually a great game. I didn't think it would be this good. But, did I say Oregon, Penn State? Yeah, okay, sorry. Anyways, Oregon comes out firing, just like I said. Penn State had to play great defense. Didn't really happen, So what was it for Oregon? So as I said last week, Oregon just has a super dynamic offense. You have guys scoring from everywhere. You have Dylan Gabriel, who can throw the ball. He can throw it deep. He can throw it short. He can take off with his legs when he needs to. You got James in the backfield give you 20 carries a night, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns there. And then obviously you have Evan Stewart and Tej Johnson, 1-2 punch there at receiver. And Tej Johnson, 181 yards and a touchdown. He was unstoppable against Penn State. And then the tight end for Oregon, I forget his name. Let me pull it up for you guys here. But I think it was Kenyon Sadiq here. 2 touchdowns. One of them, that hurdle touchdown you just saw right there. I mean, really just a great game all around. The big thing for Penn State is obviously cutting down on the turnovers. So the big issue for Penn State this game was obviously Drew Allar threw 2 picks. You really got to cut down on those, especially, I mean, Allar's been the quarterback for, I think, 2 years now. And, it's just kind of things. And I was never really a big believer in Allar to begin with. But it's really kind of one of those things where, I mean, you got to adjust at some point, And Katron Allen on the ground also did really good for Penn State. Warren, the tight end, obviously, I mean, the kid's unstoppable. They couldn't stop him. But it just became a point where, as you can see here, Penn State had a lot of turnovers on offense. Penn State also forced no turnovers, which is kind of the big deal breaker in my opinion. Yeah, I feel like you could get away with these 2 turnovers if your defense gets some turnovers back for you. And with a Penn State team like this, a great defense, you got Abdul Carter on the edge. They really should have forced a turnover in this game, in my opinion, but weren't able to. And I think that was like the ultimate underlying decision on why they lost the football game. So that is Oregon and Penn State. Next up, Georgia, Texas. I'm a Georgia fan, I'll admit it, but I was crashing out in this game. I'll also admit that. I had no faith. But, let's just get into the game. So, obviously, Texas, they've been firing pretty well. Not as well as you would like to see, in my opinion, but still doing pretty good. Carson Beck looked honestly really rough in the first half here. We could go to the box score and see his stats here. 7 of 13, 56 yards. Obviously, some drops in there, but nothing really crazy there. But I think what really won this game for Georgia is the rush game, having ETN put up 94 yards and 2 touchdowns for you, and then throwing the ball to the tight ends, like I said. Getting the tight ends involved, I think, for Georgia is really the difference maker. Getting your Oscar Delps, your Lawson Luckies, your Ben Urisex involved really, I think, help make the difference, and especially when you have a backup quarterback come in the game for you. Having those guys to lean on. It's kind of hard to get a ball to a wide receiver, especially when a backup gets in, especially a Georgia wide receiver. No, I'm kidding, but having Gunnar Stockton, having those guys to lean on for him is huge, and I think the main reason why Georgia won this football game. I also don't think Texas was really prepared for how dynamic of a quarterback Gunnar Stockton is. I mean, he's always been a dual threat guy, and coming out of high school, I think that's what he was recruited as. But he came in the game, and immediately you could see a kind of like a breath of fresh air for the Georgia offense, and that was really helped them out there. And Georgia's defense, Georgia has played great defense against top tier opponents, minus that Ole Miss game. But Georgia's played great defense against big opponents. Obviously, they were able to stop the run. That was a big thing I was talking about. Just stopping Wisner was important. Obviously, Golden for Texas had 162 yards, and I think most of them were in the first half. We could not stop the pass. But there was one guy who could, and that was Dalen Everett. Dalen Everett, he won SEC Championship MVP. He played a great game. 2 picks on Quinn Ewers in that ball game. Really helped us secure the win. But, aside from him and probably KJ Bolden, and Malachi Starks, of course, our DBs are kind of lacking. Having Daniel Harris in coverage was, time and time again, he was just getting burnt. And that was a kind of a really reoccurring theme for this game. And that's kind of why Quinn Ewers had 350 passing yards. But another big thing for Texas was the kicking. 2 field goals. I think one was 41, the other one was like 49. 2 missed field goals. Obviously, you can't have that. If you make those field goals, you win the game. But they couldn't make the field goals, so Georgia gets the win. Great game. All-time matchup, really. Oh, yeah, Carson Beck, I'm pretty sure tore his UCL. So there's your Carson Beck update. So next game we have is Clemson and SMU. So this game, honestly, was I didn't think it'd be this close. I honestly Excuse me. SMU, I really thought was going to maybe not get ran over, but I don't think it would have been a field goal game, especially after the first half of this game. In the first half, SMU had a lot of miscues. Kevin Jennings threw that pick in the first half, and it looked like Clemson and the offense were rolling, and you really see that as a reoccurring theme throughout this game, especially in the second half. I mean, both of these offenses were rolling. You see Cade Klubnik, 4 touchdowns, 260 yards. They couldn't get it going on the ground, but that was okay because obviously they just dominated so much in the pass. You have guys like Bryant Wesco, Antonio Williams, and both of them kind of spazzed in this game truly, and they look great through the air. And obviously those first half miscues for SMU cost them the game, and it came down ultimately to a game-winning field goal. SMU tried to come back late and tied the game. With about a minute left, I think, and got close there at the end, but SMU cannot squeak out the win. But it was a great effort, and like I said last week, SMU is a very young team. Obviously, Rhett Lashley, I think, has been coaching there for 2 years, and they have a young core of guys between Kevin Jennings and Smith over here. I never remember his name, Brashard Smith. Kevin Jennings and Brashard Smith, are honestly a great duo in the future. I think honestly that SMU has potential to keep coming to the CFP and keep playing in these big spots. I think they can handle that, especially with Lashley at coach. He brings a lot of recruiting to SMU, and SMU has a lot of money, obviously. So that's kind of how I feel about Clemson and SMU. Next game, kind of the blowout of the Power Four, out of the Power Four championships here. It was Iowa State and Arizona State. So Arizona State, absolutely dominated throughout the whole game. Really, I mean, it was 24-10 at half, and it really did not slow down there. Obviously, the Arizona State defense, I don't think gets a lot of credit, but they look great. In the third quarter alone, forcing 3 turnovers in the third quarter, and all those turnovers led to scores for Arizona State, which is why they were able to win in such dominant fashion. But they were even able to put in the backups. But obviously Sam Levitt, true freshman, looked great. Still able to produce through the air even without Jordan Tyson. Cam Scadaboo needs no introduction. You guys know how I feel about Cam Scadaboo. He's great. He's a great running back. He's my second ranked running back nationally, and he's just a great running back to have. Just an absolute bowling ball. Iowa State couldn't stop him. He was breaking off tackles, spinning off tackles. It was great. It was an insane game to watch. I loved watching that game. And Arizona State's defense really had Iowa State in a box, and they couldn't get much going on offense. Then you see the targeting call on Rocco Becht. Obviously came back into the game, but at that point it was all over. And look at Arizona State, hottest team in football, looking absolutely dominant. Love to see it from Arizona State. I've been high on them all season, high on them now, hottest team in football. Next up, we got Ohio and Miami of Ohio. I'm not really going to say much by this game. Ohio is kind of really an old team, not really old, but like an older team. They played a great game, obviously, against Miami of Ohio. Parker Navarro is a great quarterback. He's been in the system for a long time. Got the win, squeaked it out. Obviously not squeaked it, but won in pretty dominant fashion. So, not much to say about this game. I'd say I almost said Ball State. Miami of Ohio really wasn't able to get it going on offense, and that's kind of led to why they lost this game. Next up was Marshall and the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. UL Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns, they were playing great all season. Only lost one conference game and went 10-3 overall. Looked like a great team, and then Marshall just comes in here and beats them up. For Marshall, I think it was just how dynamic the Marshall offense is. I don't know if you guys watch Marshall football like that, but you have guys like Tyshawn Chapman here. You have Braxton playing quarterback, and then the running game between Houston and Payne and Turner is just undefeated, and not really undefeated, but it's a great 3-headed monster to have at running back. You have average quarterback play, but great receivers to make up for it, and that's kind of why Marshall ran away with this football game. As you can see, Time of possession, they dominated, no turnovers, just a clean game by Marshall, and obviously led to the blowout. So, yeah, that's our kind of our recap of the conference championships. We're gonna take a look to chat here, see what's going on. Is George Kittle going over receiving yards tonight? Who are they playing? I completely forgot. I think it's the Rams. No. Is it the Rams? I think it's the Rams. I could see it happening. Okay, Neil's got a Mafia Max Nuclear. Garindo over rush yards. Frat Stafford over pass yards. And Georgia, I'm going with... Okay. I like that, Neil. I really like that, honestly. I think that's hitting. And just because I said that, it's not going to. But let's keep going. Next segment of the show is some bowl pick'ems. So, actually, change of plans. So, this is the CFP bracket. This is where it stands, just in case anyone was wondering. I forgot I was going to add this part. But, yeah, this is where the CFP bracket stands. Obviously, we got 100% of these correct. So, Georgia at 1. Oregon at 1. Georgia at 2. Boise State at 3, Arizona State at 4. Someone tried to tell me that Clemson was going to jump Arizona State. I was like, no way. Arizona State is too hot. And as you could see, your boy was correct. And then that led to some great playoff matchups, in my opinion. Texas-Clemson is going to be a great matchup. Tennessee-Ohio State, another heater. SMU-Penn State. We'll see what SMU can do in State College? Yeah, that's the city. And then, obviously, Indiana-Notre Dame, which I think is honestly a very underrated matchup. I think both of these teams have a legitimate shot to beat each other. So it's going to be pretty interesting to watch, see who Georgia faces off against, Boise State, Oregon, and Arizona State. I think we have a great viewing experience ahead of us, if I'm being real. Anyways, let's get to where we were. Bowl pick'em. So how I'm going to do this, obviously, bowl season's taking place over the next 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Each bowl game that is within the show, so from this Thursday to next Thursday, I'll talk about. So we only have a few games to talk about here, obviously, just these just these couple days. I want to talk about Georgia Southern, Sam Houston, because the game starts right after this podcast ends. So let's get started. So Jackson State, South Carolina State. I think this is pretty much just the HBCU Bowl, or the Celebration Bowl. But I went with South Carolina State here. I went with Jackson State. Jeez. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of FBS football this year, but I think Jackson State has a chance. I think they did just win the what's it called, the SWAC championship. So that's that. Next, we have South Alabama and Western Michigan. I got South Alabama winning this game. Western Michigan hasn't really... I think their quarterback entered the transfer portal this offseason, and South Alabama obviously Fluff Bothwell. We'll talk more about him later. Also entered the transfer portal, but South Alabama, Gio Lopez, great team down there. I think they get the win over Western Michigan pretty handily. Next, in the Frisco Bowl, we got Memphis and West Virginia. West Virginia is a good team. I think very underrated. But so is Memphis. Memphis is probably the best, one of the best group of 5 teams in the nation. Definitely top 5. I'd rank them probably 3rd or 4th. But they play great football. Seth Hennigan's a great quarterback. They got great options on offense between, I forget the running back's name, Sutton, and a couple other receivers there. But I think they could squeak out the win against West Virginia this week. I guess next Tuesday. Next up, Western Kentucky, James Madison. Give me James Madison. James Madison with who's their quarterback? Oh, man, it's gonna kill me. We'll find out real quick. Alonzo Barnett. He is a great quarterback for. I accidentally X'd out of it. But anyways, Burnett's a great quarterback for James Madison, and I think he helps them get the dub here. Next, UNLV and Cal in the LA Bowl. Give me UNLV. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza entered the portal. Hunter, the wide receiver, Neziah Hunter, also he's a leading receiver for Cal, also entered the portal. I think UNLV gets the win here. Excuse me, sorry, I've been kind of dealing with a cold recently. But I think UNLV gets the win in SoFi Stadium. Next, we got Georgia Southern and Sam Houston State in the New Orleans Bowl. It's dangerous when Georgia Southern goes to New Orleans, right? That's what I'm hearing. Anybody from Statesboro going to NOLA is a dangerous time, and I think Georgia Southern football is dangerous. Give me Georgia Southern to win. JC French and the boys down there are going to get it right. I think they have a great chance to win that football game. So, those were our bowl picks. Obviously, next week we have quite a lot of bowls to pick. So, it's going to be a really entertaining show next week with those, so make sure you stay tuned. Next up, we're going to go on to the biggest segment of the day, which is the portal. So, obviously, the portal has been kind of it's been crazy to start. I mean, the offseason basically just started, but obviously so many names have already entered the portal. And I think it's going to be a great game. Or a great game, sorry. It's going to be great to watch these players try and find new teams. This is probably my favorite part of college football, other than watching it, is watching like where the players go. I mean, it's awesome. You know, you get see guys who try and get another chance, guys who try and get a chance at a big team. I love it personally. So let's talk about it. So obviously, since last episode, we've had a lot of names enter the portal, which we're going to talk about them all. We're going to take our time. We're going to have a good time listening, talking, all that good stuff. So first name we're going to talk about, obviously, is Eric Singleton Jr., wide receiver from Georgia Tech. Standout, their true one. He was a great slot guy, really a great gadget guy for them as well. You know, he kind of destroyed Georgia, destroyed a lot of teams this year. But obviously, he's a great receiver, #1 ranked player in the portal this season. And so let's talk about where he's going to go. So obviously, Singleton has scheduled a visit with 3 teams so far. So he's scheduled a visit with Ole Miss, Georgia, and Auburn. To be honest, my pick for him to go is either Ole Miss or Georgia. I don't think he goes to Auburn. Auburn honestly has a really stacked receiving room as it is, especially with the recruits they've brought in. So I don't think Auburn's really an option for him. I think he'd want to go somewhere with a more established quarterback, and we'll get into who Auburn's going to have at quarterback next year in a little bit. But I think Ole Miss or Georgia is going to be the final landing spot for Eric Singleton Jr. Next up, we'll talk about Deuce Robinson. Obviously, super athletic, kind of hybrid wide receiver, tight end kind of player out of USC. I mean, just complete athlete. Love what he brings to the football game. And, you know, I think he can really make an impact wherever he goes. Whether he's as a tight end or a receiver, he's going to be good wherever he goes. Next, we got Croman Hook. So This isn't really known, or this is really kind of really known on this show. Is I got a displeasure for Florida State football, and I also I don't know. I don't think they can really identify QB talent at Florida State. So we're obviously going to talk about QBs in Florida State a little later on, but obviously Croman Hook hits the portal, and Croman Hook, he was a 5-star, or was he a 4-star? I don't know, but he shouldn't have been either way. I don't think he was ever that good to begin with. Played his football at Benedictine, and obviously hits the portal. I mean, I think obviously he'll probably find another power forward job somewhere, but I just don't think he really deserves that, honestly. I think he's not that good of a quarterback. We'll see where he goes. Maybe he can prove me wrong. I hope so, right? But yeah, that's Croman Hook. Obviously, there's Prince Will. I can't say the name, but going to his brother's school, or at least transfer. Prince Lee. Let's keep going. So obviously, we've talked about Dan Keene before. So Kevin Conception, KC Conception. He has narrowed down his schools to his top 6. We talked about Conception last week. Conception, obviously, he had a couple schools he was looking at, but we got it down to 6. So those 6 schools are Alabama, Texas A&M, Miami, Colorado, Florida State, and South Carolina. So really, I think maybe not Alabama, but I think really all these schools are kind of a great landing spot, and maybe not Florida State, but at least between A&M, Miami, Colorado, and South Carolina, I really think those are great landing spots for Conception. South Carolina would be a very interesting one. Teaming him up with Nick Arbor would be kind of dangerous, I think. Obviously, you have the big guy, the jump ball threat, and Nick Arbor, and then you have the slot guy with Conception. I think that would be a great fit. Obviously, not far from his previous school of NC State. Colorado also kind of makes sense. A lot of the Colorado receiving room is leaving after the season between Hunter, Jimmy Horn, Will Shepard, like that whole squad. I think is really breaking up, and same with Miami. A lot of older guys on that team. So, excuse me. There's a big potential for him to go, to any of those schools. I guess it just depends who's willing to give him the most money nowadays, right? But honestly, for me, best fit is South Carolina or Colorado. We'll see who Colorado brings in on quarterback, and I think that's kind of what Conception is also looking for. Is obviously Miami and Colorado both have holes at quarterback right now. Cam Ward and Shadur probably going to the draft, like 95% sure they're going. Well, Cam Ward has to. But it'll be interesting to see where Conception lands. I think it kind of depends on who's playing quarterback. Obviously, at South Carolina, you have Lenore Sellers there, and you have the for sure quarterback. So we'll see who lands at quarterback for Miami and Colorado. Obviously, we're going to talk about that later on in the show. So next name we're going to go look at is Barian Brown, a wide receiver from Kentucky. So Barian Brown, you don't see it here, but as I was getting ready to start recording for the podcast, literally 30 minutes ago, it was announced that Barian Brown is predicted to go to LSU. We'll see how accurate that prediction is. But I could see it. The fit is obviously there. Sorry, excuse me. With C.J. Daniels entering the portal, that leaves a hole at their kind of wide receiver 3 spot. I think Barian Brown can fill that great. You obviously have Kyron Lacey also going to the draft, I believe. So obviously there's holes at receiver at LSU. Nussmeier's a great quarterback, at least in terms of the SEC. So I think that Barian Brown kind of has a fit there. So I think that's a great move that makes sense. Next guy we're going to talk about is Micah Hudson. So Micah Hudson got predicted to go to Texas A&M, and I like I don't know what to make of it. So obviously, Micah Hudson, 5-star crown jewel of the Texas Tech recruiting class from last year, barely saw the field. Texas Tech has a loaded receiving core, honestly. But do I think that Micah Hudson starts at Texas A&M? It's a tough call to make. It really is a tough call to make. I really like Hudson, but I don't know if he'll crack that rotation. We'll have to see, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully he will. We'd love to see that as a football player. Obviously, let's keep going. So, QBs, obviously. Mendoza. So Mendoza, quarterback for Cal, played pretty good football this year. Is a pretty I'd say average quarter, maybe not average, above average, but he doesn't wow you with anything with Mendoza. So obviously Mendoza, I think I have it in here. Yeah, so Mendoza, his 4 schools he has that are, I guess, interested. It's Georgia, UCLA, Indiana, and Wisconsin. To me, the fit that makes the most sense is Indiana with Kurt Cignetti. I think Fernando Mendoza is a Kurt Cignetti-esque kind of quarterback, obviously. Cignetti had Jordan McLeod 2 years ago at JMU, and then he had Curtis Rourke, and I think Fernando Mendoza kind of also fits that same, not really dual threat kind of guy, but a guy who can sling the ball, and if he needs to get on the horse, he can. So I think Mendoza, obviously, he makes the fit there. And I think Indiana is the most ideal landing spot for Fernando Mendoza. Obviously, I could see a Wisconsin or a UCLA, but UCLA is kind of a sinking ship right now. In case you didn't know, they fired Eric Bieniemy. They made a lot of guys are transferring out of UCLA. So I think Fernando Mendoza, I don't see him fitting in at Georgia, especially with, as we've seen, Gunnar Stockton pan out. It just doesn't make sense to me for him to go there. So my official pick for Mendoza is to go to Indiana. Next, we got Malik Murphy. So Malik Murphy, if you didn't know, was a quarterback at Duke. He used to be Texas, kind of a project guy. And his 2 teams, it is kind of down to, I think it's a 2-team race right now. It's between Auburn and Miami. I don't think it'll be Auburn. I think Malik Murphy becomes the next quarterback or I don't think it'll be Auburn. I think the next Miami quarterback will be Malik Murphy. So, moving on, Connor Weigman. So, I love this move, honestly. Weigman is he wasn't great last year. He was never really that great, to be honest. A lot of it was, he played a lot of teams that were not that good, got hurt when the teams were good, and that's kind of like the only real sample we have. So Connor Weigman, I think he goes, I know he goes to Houston. So obviously you see here, transferred to the Houston Cougars. I think this is a great move for Weigman, honestly. A little scale down in competition. Obviously, it's still the Big 12. You're still playing Power 4 football, but a little scale down. And I think he can honestly make a really good difference on this Houston team. This is one of my favorite moves so far, especially for the QBs. I mean, I love it. Next, we're talking about Miller Moss. So Miller Moss has scheduled 2 visits with Mizzou and Louisville. Obviously, last week I said Miller Moss is a Louisville-esque quarterback. He needs to go to Louisville. He will be a great quarterback at Louisville. So let's see if I'm right. I think there's obviously a fit at Mizzou as well, but I think he goes to Louisville. Excuse me. Next up, we got Darian Mensah. So Mensah was a standout freshman for Tulane this year. Obviously, he looked great. Obviously, they went on 10-3, 10-4 this year, and as soon as Malik Murphy left, Darian Mensah commits to Duke. That's a great pickup for Duke. Going to start right away. In fact, the backup for Duke already transferred, so that's a great pickup for Duke. I love it. Just a great move all around for both parties, really. I mean, you have weapons at Duke. You can develop a quarterback at Duke. I mean, we've seen it before. So I think that Darian Mensah makes a great move here. Next up is Jackson Arnold. So Jackson Arnold you don't see it here, but he's predicted to go to Mississippi State. Obviously, Michael Van Buren also entered his name into the portal shortly after it was announced he was predicted to go to Mississippi State. So I think that pretty much means it's a lock for Jackson Arnold to go to Mississippi State. I think the teams, we talked about Arnold last week, the teams for Arnold was Mississippi State, Georgia, and Auburn. And obviously, I think it is Mississippi State. MVB in the transfer portal. I love MVB as a player. Obviously, he was kind of dealt a crappy hand, really, being at Mississippi State. Thrust into action over Shapen, or after Shapen got hurt. But I think MVB, I think he could really make a difference somewhere. Ignore the star ratings. I think he finds a job. Maybe not at the Power 4, but I think he could definitely start in the Group of 5. In my opinion. So I think that's a great quarterback there. Obviously, just needs to develop, needs to go somewhere he can develop. Maybe he needs to sit out a year, develop, but I think he can turn into a great quarterback. Next quarterback we're going to talk about is Caden Salter. So Caden Salter, I have it right here. He is, if I can find it. Oh yeah, so he's been scheduled, I think he's scheduled visits at least he's down to scheduled 3 visits. So he scheduled visits for Syracuse, Colorado, and Florida State. I obviously think Florida State is out of the question now. You'll see why in a little bit. Then Colorado and Syracuse. I can really see the fit at Colorado. I think that makes the most sense for him. He's kind of a small name guy, obviously playing at Liberty for so long. I think he kind of tries to make it to a big stage, goes to Colorado, goes and plays with Dion. I don't think that's a bad idea. But also, you have the 5-star from Carroll, Julian Lewis, who reclassed and committed to Colorado. So we'll have to see how that goes. But we'll keep going down the list here on some guys I want to talk about. Next up is going to be Devin Dampier. So I love Devin Dampier as a quarterback. He's a great dual threat. It's low-key like a mini Lamar kind of situation. The stats obviously aren't that impressive. He played at New Mexico, but the offense was so dominant. I mean, he can throw the ball, he can run the ball. You just got to watch the film, honestly. And that's what I'll say with a lot of these guys is just by watching some of these small games, you can kind of see like who's really that good. So I think Devin Dampier really has it, and obviously commits to Utah. If you guys don't know, I think it was New Mexico's offensive coordinator or maybe head coach. One of them took some sort of job at Utah. I think it was offensive coordinator job at Utah. Devin Dampier follows, obviously, and I think that is a great move for him. I love it. I think that he'll make a real difference maker. Honestly, if it's a new offensive coordinator, I don't see Cam Rising starting. I hope Cam Rising doesn't start. So I really like what Devin Dampier brings to the table. And take a sip of water. Next, we got Tommy C, 912 legend, Waycross legend, Tommy Castellanos, the UCF transfer to Boston College. UCF transfer went to Boston College, got benched late in the season by Bill O'Brien, enters the portal again, and commits to Florida State. So I know I got a couple Florida State fans as friends, and they're kind of curious about this move. And as much as I love Tommy C, Waycross, 912, all that good stuff, Tommy C is just not that good of a quarterback. He'd be a great slot receiver or a great running back for sure, but I don't think he moves the meter for Florida State, in my opinion. It's really yikes. I mean, maybe because Gus Malzahn is there, you can have some good games, but I just don't think this really moves the meter all that much. Next guy we're going to talk about, Ashton Daniels. So 100% crystal ball down here to Auburn. I think this is a great move by Auburn. Ashton Daniels is a really good quarterback, if you didn't know. Kind of balled out at Stanford this year. Obviously, he had great receivers there, and that kind of helped him. But, I mean, there's great receivers at Auburn, so obviously that's going to help him there. So I think that Ashton Daniels makes a real difference at Auburn. I really think he's better than any of the guys Auburn has now. So I love that move. Honestly, I love that move for Daniels. Next, Malachi Nelson. Obviously, former 5-star. They love to say that, but transferred last year from USC to Boise State. Was it USC? I'm pretty sure it's USC. It might have been Oregon. But transfers to Boise State, doesn't even get the starting job over Maddox Madsen, then goes to hits the portal again, now just a 3-star prospect. And honestly, he should have been a 3-star to begin if you can't even start at Boise State. So I think he goes to another group of 5 team. I think he could start at really any of those West Coast teams. Emmett Brown, the QB for San Jose State, entered the portal. I think that's a great landing spot for Malachi Nelson, is like a San Jose State, kind of one of those Mountain West teams, maybe a Hawaii. I think that's a great spot for Malachi Nelson. Obviously, Preston Stone screams North Texas to me. He needs to go to the group of 5, stop riding the bench. He'll make a difference at a great group of 5 team, like a North Texas or a Rice kind of team. Braylon Braxton, I'm pretty sure he's going to go to Southern Miss, follow Charles Huff, the coach. And then Jacob Zeno to Texas A&M. I'm not a believer in Zeno. Yeah, the stats look pretty good, but I don't think he will really make an impact at Texas A&M. I don't think he gets a starting job over Marcel Reed, but we'll see. Deshaun Purdy, true freshman at Charlotte, really, honestly, a good quarterback. I could see him making a good move, maybe a lateral move in the group of 5, and really make an impact on a team there. So that's quarterbacks. We're going to take a little break here. I see chat going crazy, so we're going to read chat here. Love the show. This is Kim Howe. What's up? Singleton to Georgia? I really hope so. I would love Singleton to Georgia. I mean, it just fills such a big hole in the Georgia offense. Just having a guy with sure hands that's always open in the middle of the field on a drag, on a slant, something like that, I think just makes a great impact. Waycross should not be 912. Get him out. Get him in the 229. Am I right? Nah, I love Waycross. Love Blackshear. Love them boys. Shout out. But yeah, we're gonna keep going. Let's keep going. So we're gonna go to. Talked a little bit about wide receivers. Do I have any other wide receivers that I have not mentioned before that I want to mention? Yeah, I actually do. So let's keep scrolling down here. So where are the names I'm trying to find? This one, Naziah Hunter, standout wide receiver for Cal. He's going to make an impact on whatever team he goes to. Really a great wide receiver. Looked good. Obviously helped Mendoza look good. So I think Naziah Hunter is going to be a great wide receiver for whoever picks him up. I like him. I haven't really seen where he's going yet, but he looks good. J. Michael Sturdivant, transfer from Cal to UCLA. I mean, he was just doing cardio at UCLA. No one could get him the ball, but I love Sturdivant. He's going to really, I think, maybe scale down in competition, maybe go to a team with a more established QB. He makes a big difference. I like J. Michael Sturdivant. I don't think a lot of these Alabama guys really make a difference here. Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice. I don't think these guys really honestly make that much of a difference. Maybe Caleb Odom. I think he was a former 5-star recruit. But Dejon Stribling, if you guys don't know, if you don't watch Oklahoma State football, really a great wide receiver. Him and I forget the other guy's name. Presley. Him and Brennan Presley really look great. I think Stribling is a great wide receiver. He's going to make an impact on whatever team he goes to. I could see him going to maybe like a Houston to go team up with Weigman. I think that'd be a great move. Maybe in Oklahoma. That's also a great move for Stribling. I think he kind of makes an impact. Maybe in Nebraska, somewhere, one of those Midwest teams, Kansas State. I think he makes a huge impact. Can be a true wide receiver one for those teams. So I really like Stribling. Let's see, is there any more wide receivers? Kyron Hudson doesn't really wow me. Xavier Townsend didn't get much playing time at UCF. Crenshaw McCray is really good at football. If you know, you know. The one bright spot on Kent State, I think Crenshaw McCray can really go up to one of those higher level Group of 5, bottom tier, Power 4 teams and make a good impact. So that's what I like about Crenshaw McCray. Let me see if I have any more names here. Oh, yes. Almost forgot. If we scroll down a little bit down here, where is it? Yes, here we go. So obviously Holden Griner, another Benedictine product, entered the portal. I could see him going to like a Group of 5 Sunbelt team for sure. Maybe a Marshall, Coastal Carolina with Vasco in the portal. I don't think Vasco will actually leave though. But Hank Brown, 100% predicted true freshman to Iowa. Great defense over there. Obviously, maybe he helps revitalize the offense. Who knows? I love I hope he makes a difference wherever he goes, but obviously we haven't seen a lot. Zach Pryon, the Georgia Tech guy, backup goes to Minnesota. I really like that move, honestly. I think low key that Minnesota is kind of like a lower tier Georgia Tech in a way, where they're run first offense, and I think that's a good move. I think he fits up there really well. Okay, here it is. Walker Howard. I love this move. Walker Howard, I've been a big fan of Walker Howard ever since he was at LSU. Obviously you watched him in that pretty sure he came in at one point in the SEC championship. Maybe he didn't. I'm thinking of Garrett Nussmeier. But anyways, Walker Howard is honestly not a bad quarterback at all. Transferred from LSU to Ole Miss, didn't see the field obviously, sat behind Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders, and then this year Austin Simmons. So obviously he transfers to UL Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns. I think that's honestly a great move for Walker Howard. Scale down in competition, and you go to one of the more dominant teams in a conference. So it goes down to the Sun Belt Conference and goes to one of the most dominant teams. I think that's a great move for Walker Howard. I really like that move a lot for him. So that's probably, between him and Weigman, those are my two favorite moves right now in terms of quarterbacks. So last up are the running backs we're going to go over. So, that's receivers. Hold on. There we go. So, obviously, we have Wayshawn Parker, standout running back for Washington State. I think he played great. I think he'll definitely make an impact wherever he goes. Definitely deserves that 4-star ranking. Great running back. Really helped out with John Mateer in the air. Maybe Mateer will go into the quarterback. That would be a great watch. But Wayshawn Parker, he'll make an impact wherever he goes. I don't know if he had... Oh, yes. Okay, so once again, as I was getting ready to start recording this episode, doing my research and whatnot, it came out that Wayshawn Parker, so he's down to 4 schools, which is Arizona, UCLA, USC, and Utah. And obviously USC has, I think, Woody Marks still at running back, which Woody's great. Arizona, I think, really kind of has a hole for running back. I'd really like to see him go to a school like Arizona or Utah. I do like the Utah move, but I don't think he goes, and that's for one reason. We'll talk about it later. But any of those, I don't think UCLA is the right spot, but an Arizona or a USC for Wayshawn Parker is, in my opinion, a great move. Next, we have Fluff Bothwell. If you guys don't know who Fluff Bothwell is, you're going to know now, because this guy is a stud. I'm telling you, he is a stud. He is standout running back for South Alabama this year. True freshman. He's great. I mean, really, any team will be lucky to have him. I think he starts wherever he goes, honestly, hopefully. But just another great running back in the portal. This guy's going to make an impact. Trust me. I mean, this guy, he's him, pretty much. Himothy Award goes to him. Ahmad Hardy, another great running back from the group of 5, looking to make a difference. I think he was originally from Arizona, maybe. And then Quentin Joyner here. Obviously, I think he's behind Woody Marks, so he's going to enter the portal. But Quentin Joyner, if you look at, this is so niche, but the USC practice tape, he's great. Quentin Joyner, I think, can really make a difference on a team. So he'll look good on wherever he goes. I'm thinking like a Mountain West-esque kind of team, or new Pac-12, whatever it is nowadays. I think he makes a great impact on one of those West Coast teams. Terrion Stewart, Bowling Green running back, really had a pretty good year on a pretty mediocre Bowling Green team. I think he's a great running back. I don't think he makes a jump to the Power 4. Maybe like a low-tier Big Ten school, maybe like a Northwestern kind of vibe, a Purdue. But Terrion Stewart, I think, could move up to one of those bigger MAC teams, one of those American teams, and make a big impact. So that's where I like Terrion Stewart. And the reason why, so Price, why don't you think Wayshawn Parker goes to Utah? It's because this guy right here, Eli Sanders. So obviously, New Mexico offensive coordinator or head coach leaves and joins Utah coaching staff. I think Eli Sanders follows him to Utah. I think that's the move. Him and Dampier, I think, combined for over 2,000 yards on the ground this season at New Mexico. I think they make the jump to the Power 4 together. I think Eli Sanders joins him. Eli Sanders, also a stud running back. Really good. Next, we're going to talk about is Ismail Mahdi. So Ismail Mahdi, if you don't know, Texas State running back. I think he was previously the UTEP running back. Let me check here. Maybe I'm wrong. He could have just been Texas State. Oh, no. Houston Christian. Wow. Sorry. But that's close. But anyways, Ismail Mahdi, really good at Texas State. Kind of helped with their running game a lot. Obviously, you have Jordan McLeod throwing through the air there, and then Ismail Mahdi on the ground. And Mahdi's been great on the ground all season for them. I like the move. I like him to go maybe scale up in competition to a Big 12 kind of school. Maybe like a Texas Tech after Micah Hudson, or one of those ACC schools. I think he's a real power runner, like a Minnesota kind of vibe. Maybe an Arizona State. We'll see. But I really like Mahdi. I really like what he can bring to the table for a team. Dang. So, let's keep going. Is that all I got for the portal? I think so. Oh, we got a couple names that I've left out. Easton Messer. So if you guys don't know, Easton Messer, he's a slot wide receiver for Western Kentucky this year. He's a great slot wide receiver. Need to watch the film on him. He's a really great running back. So I think he makes a big difference wherever he goes. Luke Hasz, the tight end for Arkansas. Sorry, didn't really get involved this year. I think he makes a big impact on whatever team he goes. Let's see here. I think that's all the names we have for the portal this week. So I really hope you guys enjoy these portal reviews like I do. I really enjoy doing them every single week. They're a lot of fun. And I love seeing where everyone goes. I get some insider knowledge. Watch a lot of ball, so I know these players, and a lot of people don't. So that's what we love to see. So next up, we're going to go to our pick'ems. So obviously, we do pick'ems every week for the NFL. Last week we went 6-7. Yikes! I know, pretty rough. First under 500 week of the season, but this week's the bounce back week, really. So 2 weeks ago we went 500. Last week we went 6-7. This week we're gonna make the difference. So Thursday night football tonight after the show, we got the Rams and the 49ers. The Rams coming off a big win, really, beating Buffalo. Love to see that for the Rams, and I'm really glad they were able to do it. Pull it off. Love that for my season bet on Matthew Stafford, but I don't. So I'm just not a believer in San Fran football at the moment. Obviously, they've had running backs, and it's like a dojo of running backs, really. Just a ton of nicey guys, really. So obviously you got CMC, he's out. Oh dang, Jordan Mason comes in, looks great. Jordan Mason's out. CMC's out. CMC comes back, looks good. Gets hurt again on IR. Jordan Mason on IR. Next you bring in this guy, Isaac Guerendo. I love Isaac Guerendo. He's great. He's a great running back. Came in last week and looked good. Obviously, I think he got hurt in that game, but still had 2 touchdowns and I think like 50 yards receiving and rushing at the half. So great running back there. I mean, what's going on at the dojo for running backs in San Francisco, right? So obviously, Guerendo's playing, but he's playing hurt, I believe. So I want the Rams. I think the Rams can get within 3 or maybe even win that game. I'm a big believer. Next, Carolina. Carolina is the first time being favored in a game this season. Unbelievable. I'm taking it. I'm taking the bait. I love it. I love Carolina. Let's do it. Sure. I think they can beat Dallas. Dallas has looked pretty bad, and Carolina has been keeping up with good teams like the Chiefs, like the Eagles, and why not? I love it. I love it. Kansas City has been playing sloppy football but winning games. Obviously, they're 12-1. Shouldn't be 12-1, but I think Cleveland gets within 4 of Kansas City. They keep playing sloppy football, so I think they keep getting these close games. So I'm going to pick Cleveland to go within 4. Next, we got Miami and Houston. Houston has been particularly bad at home this year, which is kind of random, but it's been pretty rough at home. I think Miami can make it a 3-point game, no doubt. Jacksonville, obviously, Trevor Lawrence is out for the season. I got New York to win by a touchdown. I think they could do it. Next up is Washington and New Orleans. Obviously, Derek Carr is out for the season. It doesn't really matter who New Orleans starts at quarterback between Hayner or Rattler. Obviously, what's his name? Golly, Taysom Hill tore his ACL, so it's a pretty rough time in New Orleans right now, at least for the Saints. I think Washington can win by 8 there. Baltimore and New York. Baltimore's look great, but I don't know. I just feel like the spread's too big. I could see New York at least getting within 14. I could see this a game where Baltimore comes out really hot in the first half, kind of lays off the gas in the second half. New York can get within 14. I think they do that. Cincinnati and Tennessee. Cincinnati's been playing great football. It's crazy how they're 5-8. I think Joe Burrow is first in like 3 quarterback categories. Jamar Chase is first in 3 wide receiver categories, yet they don't win football games. It's because they don't know how to coach their defense. But that's just what I think. But yeah, I don't believe Cincinnati can coach their defense. That's why they keep losing these games. But I think Tennessee is handleable for Cincinnati's defense. Give me Cincinnati to win by a touchdown. Arizona and New England. New England has kind of had made it close, but I think they've been struggling against running quarterbacks. Give me Arizona to win by 7. Give me Kyler and the boys. Get it done. Next, we got Indianapolis and Denver. Denver by 4. I think that's pretty easy there. Indianapolis, it's just Anthony Richardson. I'm not a believer. He's so spotty, you know. So we'll see how that goes. I think Denver gets the win though. Next up, Buffalo and Detroit. Detroit's first real, competition this season, at least notable competition recently. I think Detroit loses. I think Buffalo wins this football game. Even in Detroit, I think Buffalo gets it done. I mean, obviously close loss to the Rams last week kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Give me Buffalo. Give me the Bills to beat the 12-1 Detroit Lions. I think it happens. Next, we got Pittsburgh. I don't know if Pittsburgh's going to win this game. I will be real. Philadelphia, they barely beat Carolina, but I think Pittsburgh does get within 5 here. Win or loss, I think they do get within 5. I think this is going to be a 1 to 3 point game, really, between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. A little rivalry matchup there. But give me the terrible towel. Give me the boys down there in Pittsburgh. Give me Najee and them. Next we got the Chargers and the Bucks. Give me the Chargers to win by 3+. I think that's pretty easy. The Bucks have been looking pretty decent. Obviously Mike Evans is back, but I think that Chargers defense is pretty nice. It's low key pretty nice. Same with the offense there for LA. I think they do it. Next up, Green Bay and Seattle. Give me Green Bay. Green Bay's been playing hot football recently. Have lost close games. I guess that close game to the Lions last week, but I like Green Bay to win the football game here. I think they get it done, especially if Kenneth Walker doesn't play. I like it. Next up, Chicago, Minnesota. Minnesota came out and beat the crap out of the Falcons. My roommate was hype about that. JT, shout out, Skull, whatever. But yeah, we got spanked. And maybe Chicago will do better than us. It was just got out of hand really quick. So I think Chicago has already played them this year. I think it was within 7. I think they keep that going. Next, we got Atlanta and Las Vegas, and I'm praying to the gods that Raheem Morris can hear me. We need to win this football game. We are 6-7. We have not escaped mediocrity yet. Like, what is going on? If we go, I'm going to be at a loss for words. If we have another, 7-10 season, unbelievable. But I think we do it. I think we can. This is the bounce back we need. Honestly, this is the bounce back we need. So give me Atlanta to win by 5. So that is our NFL picks here. So let's keep going. Next, we got our locks of the week. So if you guys don't know, we every week we do 3 locks. Last week we went. Let's see. I think we went 2-1 last week again. I can actually pull that up right now. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so Will Levis did not hit, unfortunately, but Noah Fant and Xavier Worthy did hit. So that means we are, I believe we are 10-4-1 on picks in podcast history. Clap it up for the awful take, because these aren't awful. So this week we're going with Bo Nix pass yards against Indianapolis. Indianapolis has given this up 4 of the last 5 games. Bo Nix been playing hot football. I like it to happen. I think Bo Nix can get it done. Next up, we got Mark Andrews over receiving yards. The Giants have been getting decimated by tight ends recently, and Andrews has been playing really good bounce-back football. There's the beginning of the year where he looked awful, but he looks so much better now. So give me Mark Andrews, 35.5 receiving yards. I really like that a lot. Next up, we got Josh Jacobs, 73.5 rush yards. I think he slams that over. Really, Seahawks have given up big yards to big running backs. CMC, James Conner. They've really been taking advantage of them recently. So I think Josh Jacobs keeps that train going. Josh Jacobs, I think 73.5. I think he hits the over. So that's our locks for the week there. So, don't parlay them, but, use them in your parlay because they'll probably hit. Yeah. Next up, obviously, we have our final segment, which is Real Spiel. So if you guys don't know what Real Spiel is, it is our Q&A segment where I just talk about real stuff. It could be anything. It could be current events. It could be life. It could be food. It could, literally anything. Football, basketball, whatever. And I have a couple questions lined up for this week. So let's get into it. First off, how would you rate the Hawks' performance this year? So the Hawks, we're talking about basketball here. The Atlanta Hawks have been playing great basketball. Obviously, to start the year, things were looking pretty rough. But there are 2 reasons why that is pretty rough. Bogdan Bogdanovic out for, I think it was 2 weeks. DeAndre Hunter out for 2 weeks. I mean, those guys have been such key pieces to the Hawks offense this season that's why we were losing games. Obviously, they're kind of our spark plugs off the bench there, and they can give you 20 a night if you're not careful. So, and that's kind of where we are with the Hawks. So, obviously, they dropped those 2 games to the Wizards, only team that the Wizards have beat twice. And then, obviously, we come out in this in-season tournament, and we've beat the Cleveland Cavaliers twice. We've beat the Boston Celtics twice, and then we just beat the Knicks twice. So we went into Madison Square Garden, walk in Yo Trap, take over Yo Trap, go Hawks. Nah, but on the real, I think really minus the injuries, the Hawks really get a 9 out of 10 for me. Dyson Daniels has been a great pickup. Zachary Risachet was a great draft pick, whether people like it or not. He was a great draft pick. He's only 19 years old, and he has shown so much potential. He's already dropped 30 points in a game. I think that really, Zachary has great potential to be a great player in the NBA. And having, guys like Dyson Daniels to play defense, Trae Young giving you 11 assists a night, Jalen Johnson, the young superstar, balling out of his mind. Love that. I really do. So I think the Hawks really have put something together. Landry Fields, as much as we clown him for it, I think has done a really great job at putting the Hawks team together. So obviously they go to Vegas to play the Bucks in the in-season tournament. We'll see how that goes. But I really like the Hawks' performance this year. Best non-CF or sorry, next question. Best non-CFP bowl games. So my two I'm going to be watching are Georgia Tech versus Vandy. I think that's going to be a great football game. I'm going to really enjoy that one. I mean, two kind of teams where they upset Central is like their thing. I think it's a great matchup. I think the bowl pickers did a great job with that one. So I like Georgia Tech versus Vandy, and I also like Syracuse and versus Washington State. I mean, that's going to be an absolute shootout. I'm taking the over all day. I mean, they are going to be throwing the ball like mad between John Mateer if he doesn't get in the portal and what's his face from Syracuse. Oh, man, McCord. I think they're going to be launching that football. So that's my two games to watch out for non-CFP bowl games. Next, what do you think about Gunnar Stockton? So Gunnar Stockton comes into the game for the Georgia Bulldogs, helps them secure the win in the second half. Honestly, he shows a lot of potential. This season, I think right now for this season, it's more about the players around him playing great. Having the Arian Smiths of the team, Dylan Bell, those tight ends I mentioned earlier between Lawson Lucky, Oscar Delp, and Ben Urasek, and the running backs playing kind of an advisory role to Gunnar Stockton, meaning keeping him out of hairy situations where he has to make unsmart throws. Like for instance, that pick he threw against Texas, it's kind of a good example of a not smart throw there. Trying to get it out of bounds, obviously, but didn't quite make it all the way there. But I think as long as as the key players play great around Gunnar Stockton, he can make a good impact on the team this year. Maybe help us get a CFP win or two, get us all the way to the Natty. Who knows? But I think Gunnar Stockton, this could be a real make or break for him. Obviously, Georgia's been in a name in the portal for a couple about all this, or since the portal opened up. Georgia's kind of been a name like around quarterbacks like Mendoza, they were around, and Jackson Arnold. But I think if Gunnar Stockton can win a couple games here in this tournament or in the playoffs, he can shut those down real quick. Obviously he has a whole offseason to gear up to be the starter. I think he does it. He's been in the system for so long. I think Gunnar Stockton is going to be the next starter at Georgia. I think he can make a real impact, especially with the ability with his legs. That's something we really haven't seen since Stetson Bennett. And even him, they don't use, or even he couldn't run as much as Gunnar Stockton. So I think Stockton kind of brings a certain dynamic approach to the Georgia offense. So next, we'll turn to chat, see if chat has any great questions for us. McConkey injury update. I haven't looked at McConkey's injury update. I can take a quick peek though. I hope he's okay, but obviously. Okay, so last week he was or this week, sorry, he was at practice. So we got him practicing. So Ladd McConkey has been practicing, going through drills and doing all that. So, let's see. Sprained his ankle last week, dealing with the thigh injury. Yeah, I think I think he's going to be ruled questionable if he's not already, but I think he's practicing on Wednesday, which is a good sign. I think he makes it to. I think he starts this week. think he comes back. Got any other questions? Obviously, show ran a little long today, but we're talking about great news, so you love to see that. 103 viewers this week. How about that? I think that's a live record, I believe, for the pod. 103 viewers. Shout out everyone coming to see us, coming to listen to me talk. That's really impressive. I didn't think it would. I didn't even know we could ever get to 100 viewers in the chat. So shout out to each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We'll leave it probably about 3 more minutes to see if any questions roll in at all. Can you rate our lay and tell? Oh yeah, let's do it. Okay, so Garendo over rush yards, I love it. Matt Stafford over pass yards, I love it. George Kittle, yeah. I think that I honestly really do think that's gonna hit. I think that's got like a 8 out of 8 hit rate. I don't know why I went 8, but I think that's a hit rate. And then yeah, congratulations to my boy Jay Rich, Joshua Hersey, graduating from the University of Georgia. Go Dogs! Love to see it. You have a bright future ahead of you, young man. Love you, Josh. Keep it open for a couple more minutes. See if anyone has any questions for the chat. Is there any way you could turn TV off by Kendrick and dance for us? Oh man, the professionalism down the hill. Man, I don't know. I'll send you a video of that later on tonight. How about that? Yeah, I got you there. Eater alert. All right. I think we're going to end the show there. I don't think we have many chat questions going on. Once again, That's an Awful Take podcast record. 108 viewers total tonight. I mean, this is unbelievable. I'm so glad everyone... Please? Josh, come on, man. I'll send it later. But no, yeah, thank you, everybody, for coming out and watching. I'm so glad that this thing is kind of really taken off the way it has. And I'm going to keep doing it, obviously. We've got a lot to talk about. And got a lot going on, so... okay, I would turn it on, right? But I'm going to get copyright strike. I'm going to get a copyright strike. That's why I'm not doing it. That's the only reason why I'm not doing it, is because I will get copyright struck. And I want to start making money off of this, so I can't. That's why I'll send a video later. But, yeah. This has been episode 5 of the That's an Awful Take podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Price Manser. Thank you guys all for coming out. You're not monetizing this. You must. I am going to monetize it. Trust me. It's going to get there. All right. I'll talk to y'all next Thursday. Everyone have a great weekend. Watch some college football. I'll be back next Thursday.